Let's take a look at calculating the angle between two vectors. Let's talk about some basics to start. Let's say that u and v are two of our non-zero vectors. If we're looking to find the angle between these vectors, ideally we want this angle measured to be something between 0 and 180 degrees, or 0 and pi. But right now we're going to be working in degrees in this example. One of the formulas that we're going to be using to find that is going to be cosine of theta equals, on our numerator on top on that right hand side we have the dot product of u and v. In our denominator we need the magnitude of u times the magnitude of v. Obviously once we have it in this setup we can go ahead and inverse cosine both sides to get our angle measure so that it meets this criteria. Let's go ahead and take a look at two vectors. Vector u is going to be the vector 4, -3, and vector v is going to be the vector 2, 5. Let's go ahead and graph these two vectors before we get started. Vector v was 4, -3. I went ahead and graphed that vector and then labeled it. Let's go ahead and put vector u on there as well. Sorry, 4, -3 was vector u, so let's edit my graph here. Now let's go put vector v on there. Vector v is 2, 5. And if we're talking about the angle between these two vectors, that's the angle that I drew here in blue, and we're going to call it theta. That's the angle we want to find. Let's get started with the first piece that we need. We need the dot product of u and v. So we're going to multiply our x components together, multiply the y components together, and then add them together. Our dot product is going to be -7. Now let's go find the other two pieces that we need. We need the magnitude of u and the magnitude of v. When we calculate the magnitude of u, we're going to be using the equivalent of Pythagorean Theorem, so we're going to go ahead and square the x component and the y component of our vector. So 4 squared is going to give us 16, -3, the whole thing squared, is going to give us a 9. When we add those two pieces together, we get 25, and we have to go ahead and take the square root, which is going to give us 5 for the magnitude of u. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for v. Two squared is going to give us 4, 5 squared is going to give us 25, and we add those together, we're going to end up with radical 29. Now let's go take a look at finding our angle measure. I went back to our formula and plugged in the pieces that we know. The dot product of u and v gave us -7, and on the bottom we have the magnitude of u and the magnitude of v. Those two pieces are being multiplied together, so 5 radical 29 will be our denominator. Now let's go ahead and do inverse cosine of both sides to get our angle measure. Now when you do this on your calculator, keep in mind that 5 radical 29 is in your denominator. You might want to calculate that out, or make sure when you're typing this in, you put that denominator inside a set of parentheses so that your calculator knows both of those items should be in your denominator. When you do inverse cosine of both sides, we should end up with an angle measure of about 105 degrees. If we go back and take a look at our picture, that makes sense with the image as we have it drawn. This does look like an angle measure that's definitely greater than 90 degrees, so 105 degrees makes sense in this case.